job is completed, we can go here and try to refresh it. So we should be seeing the sales folder, and under this sales folder, we should be seeing the Parquet file. So if we can make it bigger, then we should be seeing we have this Parquet file. So this Parquet file is creating at the runtime, so we have no control on that. We can only specify this folder path, and you will be seeing all the data which is available under the Parquet file. We have loaded the data into the Parquet file. Now the last ask, we are required to read the data from this Parquet file. So how we can read it? So that again we have to use the spark dot, then we can use the read command, then dot. Here let me make sure like your file name is having header, and this should be true. Now here we are going to read the data from the Parquet file. So we can use the Parquet and specify this particular location. So we can copy and paste it here. Let me take this inside a data frame. So let me call this as df underscore par for the Parquet. So now this command executed successfully. Let me try to see how many records are there. So this should be having 799 records. Let me try to execute and we'll see. So it is executed and we can see 799 rows are here. So I hope guys you have understand how we can achieve it. So thank you so much for watching this video. See you in the next video. Hello, welcome to SS Unitech Sushil this side, and this is continuation of PySpark tutorial. So in this video, we are going to see about the data types. What are the available data types inside the PySpark? So here we are going to see the comparatively inside the SQL and the PySpark. So the data type as we have seen inside the SQL server, that is the integer. So we are defining the integer as int. But inside the PySpark, so data types are very similar, but the representation is a little bit different. So whenever we are going to declare the data type for any variable or any particular column, then we have to use a type. So the declaration that should be complete integer with the type. So this is inside the PySpark. Similarly, for the big int inside the SQL, we are simply specifying big int, but inside the PySpark, we have to specify as long type. So this long type is used for the long integer values. Next, for the float and double, we have this like the floating values, and for the double, so here we can specify the precision floating values. Similarly, inside the PySpark, we have the float type and the double type. So simply we can only add the type at the last of the data type. So inside the SQL, we have the double. So here double type, we have the float. So float type, we have the big int. So here long type, and for the integer, we have integer type. Next, for the char. So char and varchar. So these two is used for the string data type. So for these two, we are having only a single data type, that is the string type. So this string type will be handling for the char and varchar, both the data types. Next, for the date and timestamp. So the date data type will be going to represent as date type inside the PySpark that you can see. And for the timestamp, it is going to represent as timestamp type. So we can simply say we can only remember the data type for the integer and long. So except these two data types, rest all the data types, whatever we have seen inside the SQL, simply add the type at the last, and the data type will be ready for the PySpark. But for the integer inside the SQL, that is int, but in the PySpark, that is complete integer type. Then the big int, so that is long type. So these two you have to remember, and the next one is the string. Except these three remaining, you can add only type. So by next videos, we will be seeing how we can use this in practical. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you in the next video. Hello, welcome to SS Unitech Sushil this side, and this is continuation of PySpark tutorial. So in the last video of this video series, we have seen about the data types inside the PySpark. So in this video, we are going to see how we can use the data types for defining the columns inside a table. So first, we will see how we can create a table with the column definitions. We have already seen inside the SQL server, we are required to specify the create, then the table name, then what will be your table name. We need to specify, then the column name, data type, and the constant. So this is the syntax we have to follow by defining or creating the table inside the SQL server. But inside the PySpark, here we can see the little bit difference. So the first thing, we need to import all the required data types. So here, as we can see, we are going to import the data type as struct type, struct field, integer, string, and decimal. So these we are going to import. Without importing, we cannot use it. So this is predefined libraries, and by using those libraries, we can import it. So those libraries are available inside the PySpark. Now, we need to define the schema. So how we can define the schema? So for defining the schema, first we should be going to start with the struct type. So what is the struct type? So struct type is a type which will be used for defining the schema inside the PySpark, and it will be taking the column names as an input parameter. So inside the input parameters, we can see this is the first one, this is the second one, this is the third, and fourth. So total 4 columns we are having. So that's why we can see 4 input parameters. So next we can see the struct field. So struct field is used for defining the column name and the data type of that column. So the first one we can see ID, and what will be the data type? That is the integer type. Last parameter is indicating whether this will be nullable or not. So as we can see, true, false, we can define it here. Now the next one we can see name, then the age, and then salary. So we are having these 4 columns in the schema. So this is the syntax we have to follow for defining the schema. And the last, if you want to create any data frame, then simply we have to use the spark.create data frame. Then inside the bracket, first will be your data and second will be your schema. So I hope you have understand here. Let me quickly go inside the browser and we'll try to implement this in practical. So here, let me try to import all the required data types. Import will be use the from, then the PySpark.sql.types. Then we can use the import, and after that either we can specify the required types or we can use the asterisk as well. So what asterisk will do? Asterisk will be going to import all the types. So instead of going to use the asterisk, better we should be going to specify one by one. So first one is the struct type, second one is the struct field, third one is the integer type, then we have string type, then the decimal type, and then the date type. So all these we can simply import. So after importing, we have to specify the schema. But before going to specify the schema, let me quickly create a data. So for creating the data, let me use a variable as data. And inside this variable, let me try to use the total 4 columns. First is the your ID. Second will be your name. Third parameter will be your age. So age could be 30. And fourth parameter could be your salary. So salary I'm going to specify as 4,000 maybe. So this is the one data we have. Let me use another row here. So this could be having ID 2, name could be Prabhu, and age could be 32, and salary could be 5,000. So this is having the actual data. But as we can see, this data is not the that schema with this data. So how we can do that? Let me try to use a schema as a variable. Now, here, as I told you, we are required to use the struct type. So here we can simply use the struct type, and inside that, we can specify all the required columns. So for that, first we are required to use the struct field. Then it will be asking total 3 parameters. The first parameter will be indicating the name, so that is ID. Second parameter is indicating the type. So I'm going to use the integer type. And the last parameter, it is saying whether that is nullable or not. So I'm going to say like true. So this would be having the null value there. For the second one, we can simply copy the first row here and add another column here. And let me call this as name, and the type, this should be string type. So let me use the string type here. Let me use the another one. And this is for the age. So let me use the age. And the last one could be for the salary. So let me use the salary here. So now we are good with the name, age, and salary. Now, let me try to bind this schema with the actual data. So how we can do that? Let me try to create a new data frame. So spark dot create data frame. Now, inside this, first we are required to specify the actual data. So that is the data, and second is the schema. So this is the schema. Now, let me try to see whether we are successfully able to see the data from this data frame or not. So here it is saying this error. So this is because this type we have not used the bracket. So let me use the bracket in all the places. And now let me try to execute it. Okay, so this is again saying error because first we are use this small bracket, then the big one. So we need to reverse this bracket. So this is the syntax you have to remember, or you can also check it from Google. So here, as we could see, it is having total 4 columns with the ID, name, age, and salary. So all these 4 columns are here, and we are having the data there as well. Now in the next video, we will see file and the column names that we can see SOID, SO date, item code. Instead of having all these, it should be having the SO underscore ID, SO underscore date. So whatever the name of the columns here, and let me call this as name, and the type, this should be string type. So let me use the string type here. Let me use the another one, and this is for the age. So let me use the age, and the last one could be for the salary. So let me use the salary here. So now we are good with the schema. We have defined the schema as ID, name, age, and salary. Now let me try to bind this schema with the actual data. So how we can do that? Let me try to create a new data frame. So spark dot create data frame. Now inside this, first we are required to specify the actual data. So that is the data, and second is the schema. So this is the schema. Now let me try to see whether we are successfully able to see the data from this data frame or not. So here it is saying this error. So this is because this type we have not used the bracket. So let me use the bracket in all the places. And now let me try to execute it. Okay, so this is again saying error because first we are use this small bracket, then the big one. So we need to reverse this bracket. So this is the syntax you have to remember, or you can also check it from Google. So here, as we could see, it is having total 4 columns with the ID, name, age, and salary. So all these 4 columns are here, and we are having the data there as well. Now in the next video, we will see how we can read this particular CSV file. It is having total 4 columns. Comes with the ID, name, age, and salary. So all these 4 columns are here, and we are having the data there as well. Now in the next video, we will see how we can read this particular CSV file and the column names that we can see SOID, SO date, item code. Hello, welcome to SS Unitech Social Decide, and this is continuation of PySpark tutorial. So in this video, we are going to see how we can read any CSV file with the schema option. So before going forward, if you haven't watched the last video of this video series, so I would strongly recommend to watch that video where we have seen how we can create the schema. So it means how we can create the table. So let me quickly jump to the browser and we'll try to implement it in practical. So here we are having this file, which is the sales.csv file. So first we will be going to read the data from this file directly, and then after we will be reading the data by using the schema option, and we will also see the difference. So let me jump inside the Azure Databricks, and here in this notebook, Let me try to read the data from the sales.csv file. So as we have already created the mount point for the same, so let me try to read it directly. So for reading the data, we should be going to use the spark dot, then we need to use the read. Then we have to specify the option. And under the option, I'm going to specify header value as true because this file is having header. So let me make it as true. Next, we have to specify like from which format we want to fetch the data from the CSV file. So we have created the mount point, which is the MNP